Squad X members. It feels good to be doing this, and as you guys know, I've been a little bit under the weather over the past, week or so. Don't get me wrong, I sound fine, I look fine. That's just because I'm not the kind of person to overact when I'm sick, if you know what I mean. So don't get me wrong, I'm still doing what I need to do. I'm still active and about and doing things, but as you can tell, my voice is a little bit groggy and things of that nature. But nonetheless, we're here today to give you none other than your Bleach chapter review. But anyways, for my new subscribers who don't know me, it's your boy Shimigami X, aka your Captain X. I'm your leader of Squad X and your president of Squad 00. And I'm here today to give you none other than your weekly prescribed Bleach chapter review. And today what I'm going to be reviewing for you is Bleach chapter 617, entitled Return of the God. Alright, now, as always, my people, we're going to dive into things, but right after that intro. Okay guys, now that the lengthy introduction is out of the way, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this chapter. Based on your comments from last week, I decided that I'm going to reverse the order in which I do my chapter review. So I'm going to do question time after I give my initial summary and thoughts of the chapter. So nonetheless, let's dive into this. This week's chapter overall was a good read, and it was a good read for several reasons. Firstly, we get the return and basically the release of Sosuke Aizen. That's a bonus in itself. And also, there's also a few other key points this chapter brought to my attention that I thought were worth noting. For starters, let's start off with the Kamikake. How Juha mentioned in the manga stream translation that, how did this escape his gaze? Now I thought it was very interesting that he used the word escape, because Juha's powers are very ambiguous in the sense that it's not exactly clear exactly what it is that they do. When we were first introduced, we thought it was a case of where, whenever he gazes upon your powers in full capacity, they become nullified in his presence. So basically your powers become redundant against him. Then we found out later that no, it's just basically insane precog, where basically he's able to see what's going to happen beforehand and therefore adapt to counter against it. But that somewhat contradicts itself. So it seems to be like it's more or less a combination of the two. So that's just the way it seems. But it seems like there are certain things that Juha's eyes don't work on, such as other godly figures or other deities in that fact. Because the Kamikake is described to be a deity in its own right for the things that it performs in a way that it's worshipped. And it would make perfect sense that, it was beyond his gaze, or how did the Kamikake escape his gaze, because it was residing within inside Ukitake. So therefore it was more or less shrouded by his by Ukitake's spirit. It makes perfect sense. So if that's the case, then it's unclear as to what Juha's powers work against and what they don't. Because at the end of the day, every power has to have some kind of limitation. Otherwise, the person, or the villain in this case, will be insanely broken and they will never be defeated. There has to be some kind of drawback. Or even if the drawback is that the power itself is too powerful for the said villain to be able to control. And that's just that point. Now, another thing that I liked about this chapter was basically when we're back down in the Soul Society, and then Soifon asks Ukitake, what's going on? And not Ukitake, asks Urahara what's going on. He quite bluntly says, he doesn't know. And I love that. And the reason I love that is this, because for the longest time, it's always bothered me by how that Urahara has always had an answer to everything. When something new comes up, it's like, oh yeah, I knew about this. I made some invention to do with it. I'm like, come on, man, stop with the arse pulls, really. Like, as clever as you may be, you can't know everything for every situation, do you understand? And I think that it adds to the impact of the chapter when you have somebody that is known for their extreme knowledge when it comes to regarding certain things, especially to do with the royal realm and just basically all things Soul Society, that even in this situation, this dire situation, they don't know what's going on. It kind of amplifies the helpless factor, or the helplessness, or the helpless feel. That makes more sense, the helpless feel. It kind of amplifies the helpless feel. And I thought it was also good to see that, Mayuri came into the mix and basically came up with solutions to the problem, although I think that the solution it came up with was still a little bit of an arsepool. But the reason I liked it was this, because it shows, it reaffirms the rivalry between Kisuke Urahara and Mayuri Kuretsuchi. That they're always trying to one-up each other. Like, one's trying to prove that they're the better scientist than the other. So I did like that. It was good interaction between them two. So, basically for nostalgia reasons. So that kind of adds to the chapter as well. Now, let's move on to the main event of the chapter. Now, we see that Shunsui only released the mouth seal of Sosuke Aizen, but then Aizen was able to completely free himself. And then even when Shunsui went on to say that, most people, when they have their mouth sealed for 2 years, they're not able to speak afterwards, but you must be an exception to the rule. Now, my theory regarding Aizen is this. I don't believe Aizen was ever truly sealed, if that makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong. Of course, he was sealed in the sense that, he's wrapped up in the chairs. Come on, that's common sense. We've seen it. But I don't think he was sealed in the sense that, you know, he couldn't get out of it. Aizen is a very manipulative person. He's very tactical, and he does everything for a reason. Like, for example, he may have the ability to make his move now, but he'll choose to make it later for an underlying reason which we don't know, or something that we're going to find out later. And that's basically my theory regarding Aizen, is that he had the ability to escape all this time. Because if you're able to just remove the mouth and all of a sudden he broke the rest of the seals, there was no reason why he couldn't have broke the seals in the first place. And this also ties in with previous chapters. For example, when Yuha went to basically recruit Aizen to join him in the war as one of the 5 war potentials, Aizen was able to mess Juha's sense of time. And now we know that messing with the 5 senses is one of the abilities of his Kyoka Suigetsu. So if he's completely sealed and everything, he shouldn't be able to, you know, use its abilities, considering that we've seen in previous chapters, like, you know, when that his Zanpakuto faded away. Now, onto the note of his Zanpakuto fading away. We've only ever seen Aizen's Zanpakuto in Shikai. And we all know that what happens in... That's my phone. We all know what happens when a Zanpakuto like breaks or fades away in Shikai. It can always return. Just so long as, you know, the Shinigami puts their Reiatsu back into it, it'll eventually reform. But the only difference with that is that the only difference, an exception to the rule, is when it's in Bankai, and that was stated by Mayuri Kurasuchi. And I can't remember what chapter that is, but it's definitely a fact of the series, which is why Ichigo has new Zanpakutos at the moment. So that's why some of you are going to be asking me, like, you know, do I think Aizen still has access to his Zanpakuto? Yeah, why wouldn't he? Because when it faded away, it was only in its Shikai. He's never released his Bankai. Anyways, we're kind of digressing. Let's jump back into the main point of the chapter. My main point in the chapter, why I believe that Aizen could have broken out any time, is because if he's able to mess with Juha's sense of timing, there's no reason, and also added to the fact that he was able to break out of the seal just by having his mouth seal released, it leads me to believe that he could have broke out at any time. He's just choosing now to act, if that makes sense. It seems like he was waiting for Shunsui to come and meet him, because he knew that the situation would eventually become this dire, and that they're going to obviously require his assistance. Aizen obviously has an ulterior motive here, because since the beginning, Aizen's objective was basically to eliminate the Soul King, and maybe essentially replace him. We don't know. We just knew that he went to eliminate the Soul King. It seems in this series that many people want to eliminate the Soul King, and we see that the Soul King isn't so much a deity in itself, it's basically a mock deity created by the Soul Society. So therefore, it can be replaced, which is obviously what we're seeing by the Kamikake. So everybody wants to be this godly figure, but why? Why does everybody want to be this godly figure? Like, what is it about being this godly figure that is going to change things? Like, obviously it's a case that we can see that a lot of villains in the series want change. Like, Sosuke Aizen wanted change, Yuha wants change, but we know that things aren't well and truly all that great within the Soul Society. Like, things aren't perfect, and you need to ask yourself, it's like, in Bleach, you need to ask yourself, who is the real villain? Because if you look at it from the sense of Yuha has done cruel and wicked things, there's no denying that. But in the same sense, if you take it from his perspective, the Quincy were being slaughtered and killed 1,000 years ago simply because they were, like, you know, defending themselves from hollows, essentially. So if somebody's going to try and slaughter you and your entire you know, family and clan just for defending themselves, you're naturally going to have a grudge against them. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And then as for Sosuke Aizen, he didn't like the way that the Soul Society operated. So, and we've seen this happen in many other stories, that, you know, you have a monarchy and basically the people, or the important people, don't like the way that the monarchy operates. So therefore they try to do things to change it, whether that is overthrow the king, eliminate the king, things of that nature. And that's where it's going with the series of Bleach. So that's just my general analysis of the chapter. So overall, I believe that Aizen could have broken out at any time. He's only choosing now to act because he feels that now is the right time. As for the Kamikake and Juha's gaze, it seems like, you know, other deities or things that are shrouded within, like, you know, other people's spirits can't be affected by Yuha's gaze, or is basically beyond Yuha's gaze, if that makes sense. But although I believe that his powers need to be explained a little bit better, because the way they're explained right now is very ambiguous as to what they actually do. So nonetheless, we've finished with the review for this time, and now we're going to move into question time. Alright, I've already pre-selected what questions I'm going to answer this chapter, because, you know, I try to answer somebody different every week. So let's start with this person. Like, I don't want to butcher your name, but I think it's pronounced like Nick Lort. For the longest time, you know, you've asked me questions in like my last, 3 chapter reviews, and I haven't chosen you. So this week I'm choosing you. And also, you asked me a few deeper questions regarding the series of Bleach in general. So as I promised you, I'm still going to answer those questions in a separate video. Just that, as you can imagine, at university, I haven't had the time. And obviously, as I mentioned before, I've been a little bit sick and under the weather. So nonetheless, let's just dive into your question. Your question reads as this. First of all, how are you hanging on? You know what? I'm gonna answer that question right away. You know, I'm good. I'm a lot better than I have been like in the past week or so. I'm getting better. Like my voice is still a little bit groggy, but like I told you in the beginning of this video, I'm not the kind of person to overact things. So I'm not gonna come on camera and be like, you know what I mean? I'm just not that kind of guy. Like no need to fake. Keep it 99 plus 1 out here. Anyways, on to the main point of your question. For my question, do you think that Aizen still has his hollow powers given given by the Hogyoku, or do you think that he loses them, or do you think he basically loses them? If so, will he use that form again or not? You know, I don't believe it's a case of that he's necessarily going to use that form again, but I do believe he's going to use the hollow powers into the extent that basically hollow abilities seem to be extremely effective against Quincy's, and we all know that Yuha is inevitably a Quincy. So I believe that that's the way he's going to use them, and I do believe that, you know, there is no reason why he wouldn't have his powers from the Hogyoku, because the Hogyoku, all it does, it allows you to achieve a certain level of power, provided that you have the ability to reach that power. It just basically provides a platform for you to reach your potential. So there's no reason why you couldn't use it. Now, next question. Gohan F430. What do you think Aizen's role will be in the upcoming chapters? And how would the Shimigami react to him coming back? Okay, personally, I think like when everybody sees you know, Aizen back in the mix, it's gonna be like a shock factor. Like, you know, what the hell is he doing here? People are gonna naturally be on the defensive, but then Shunsui's just gonna be like step in and be like, you know what? No, we need him for this upcoming war. As you can see, the situation is very dire. Well, Aizen's probably gonna say something very cocky. I don't know, but we all know, we can get a general feel of how things are gonna go. That's just my general thoughts about that. Now, as for the last person, let's go with. Who's new that I haven't answered? Yeah, that was it. It was you. All right. We're gonna go with Blaze. Yeah, Blaze 12771. Do you think when Aizen reunites with everybody, they will try to attack Aizen? Yeah, I initially think that they will try to attack Aizen, or not even so much attack him, but be very, very hostile towards him. And that's just my general thoughts about that. For obvious reasons, like, you know, he's betrayed them, he's tricked them, he's cut them down, he's tried to kill them. So when somebody like that, you know, appears in front of you again, you're naturally gonna be very hostile towards them. It's just human nature. Do you understand? So anyways, guys, those are the questions I'm gonna answer for this week, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's chapter review. It's your boy Shimigami X, aka your Captain X, your leader at Squad X and your president of Squad 00. I'm signing out, and as always, my people, take care and peace. And I want you to do one more thing for me before I go, and that's keep it 99 plus 1, and that's all.